Welcome to this video on multiplying complex numbers. Let's begin. Example 1, simplify 3i times 5i. So the important thing to understand here is that everything is connected through multiplication. In other words, we have 3 times I times 5 times I. Since multiplication is commutative, in other words, order doesn't matter, 2 times 3 is the same as 3 times 2. Therefore, we can rearrange these values that are connected through multiplication in order to help us evaluate. So I'm going to put the 3 and the 5 next to each other, and then I'm going to put the two i's next to each other. So 3 times 5 is 15. I times I, just like any other variable, would be I squared. So you might think that we're done here. However, we need to pull out of our memory the fact that I squared is equal to negative 1. In other words, I squared is actually a real number, and we need to substitute that value of negative 1 in place of I squared. If you leave it as I squared, you're not going to earn full credit. So 15 times negative 1 is negative 15. This is sorry about that. This is your, oh my goodness, this is your final answer, negative 15. All right, let's do another example. Here, we notice we're multiplying 2i times 5i minus 3. So at this point, we need to pull out our distributive property. So we have 2i times 5i. Again, remember, these are all connected through multiplication. 2 times I times 5 times I. So when we multiply this, we're going to do the exact same thing we did in the previous problem, where we rearrange those values so that we can clearly see what we're doing. So 2 times 5 is 10. I times I is I squared. Again, remember, I squared is negative 1. You have to make the substitution. If you leave I squared as part of your answer, you're not going to earn full credit. So 10i squared is 10 times negative 1, or negative 10. Well, kind of stopped in the middle of the problem here, right? We still have to do the other half. So we still have to do minus 3 times 2i, or 2i times negative 3. So that's going to be 3 times 2 times I, which is 6i. So we can just bring that all the way down. And so it looks like our final answer is negative 10 minus 6i. So again, this is in the form a plus bi. In this case, a is negative 10 and b is negative 6. All right, let's look at this example. Notice that we have two complex numbers, that each number has a real part and an imaginary part. So what we're going to do is we're going to FOIL. So we have our first terms, so we have 2 times 3. Well, 2 times 3 is just 6. Then we have our outer terms. We have 2 times 5i. Well, 2 times 5i, make sure this isn't multiplication. 2 times 5 is 10, so this is going to give us 10i. All right, then we have our inner terms. We have negative 3i times 3. Well, that's just negative 3 times 3 is negative 9. So that's going to give us negative 9i. Okay, and then we have our last term. So we have minus 3i, or negative 3i, times 5i. So if we want, we can take an extra step here and rewrite it so that our the numbers are next to each other and the i's are next to each other. Okay, so 3 times 5 is 15. I times I is I squared. So let's bring this down here. We have 6 plus 10i minus 9i minus 15i squared. So there's actually two things that we need to do to finish this problem. Do you know what they are? Well, one thing you might realize is that we can combine these middle terms. So positive 10 minus 9, or 10 minus 9, is just 1. So we have 1i. Haha, we have 1i. That's funny. So we have 6 plus 1i minus, remember, this I squared is not a thing. We have to replace it. If you leave I squared in your final answer, you're gonna lose points. So I squared, recall, is negative 1. So we have 6 plus 1i, or just I, minus 15 times negative 1. Well, negative times a negative is a positive, so we're going to have positive 15. Are we done yet? We're not done. Why? Because we actually now have two real numbers. We have a 6 and a 15, and we need to combine them. Remember, our answer should be in the form a plus bi. If you have more than two terms, if you have more than just one real part and one imaginary part, you're probably not done. So 6 plus 15 is 21, and then I is just I. So we have 21 plus I. So let's write that up here. We have 21 plus I If this is in the form a plus bi, that means a is 21 and b, the coefficient of I, is just 1. So that would be our final answer.